What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Anytime Sports Podcast Show. Just quick disclaimer before we get this episode started. We had a nightmare getting the episode started, and then once I got to editing, I realized we're missing the entire front half of the podcast. But we do have 23 minutes of you guys to view of the podcast, so make sure you enjoy, sit back, grab some popcorn, and we are talking about Wild Card Weekend, arguably the most important part of the NFL season, so enjoy. Also, happy 2025. We're excited for what this year has in store for ASP.
I be like, sheesh, sunset on the beach. Make me wanna pull up on Miami with the heat. I don't know about you.
So I think it's very interesting to see what will happen with the Jets organization as well. I'm reading here the Seahawks also fire offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb after just one season on the job. They've fired him. Safe to say that probably over poor offensive line play and them not making the playoffs. That is definitely has to do with it. And definitely have those weeks where you scored only 6 points against the Bears. That's kind of embarrassing as well, and that should get you fired. Speaking of the Chicago Bears, we have delayed it kind of talking about the Chicago Bears on this podcast. Bears request to interview Coach Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Big Mike coming to Chicago.
There was a bunch of names that I saw out there. I'm trying to pull it up real quick. There's a bunch of names I saw out there.
Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, they've requested to interview those two.
I wonder if it's necessarily not that. I wonder if it's a thing they're kind of like saying, let's interview these guys maybe to put pressure on Ben Johnson. Or it wouldn't surprise me if the Bears do this to hire a guy like Mike McCarthy. Arthur Smith, Mike Kafka, the Giants OC, Mike McCarthy, Drew Petzing,
Giants OC.
Yeah.
Giants OC. You saw what they did.
Look at this guy.
You saw what they did in the Giants organization. You're like, yes, I want that in Chicago.
Yeah.
No way. I would never do that. Oh.
Yeah. I hope.
Follow.
I hope it's an instance where it's like, we're gonna interview these guys just to do it.
They've requested Brian Flores as well, the defensive coordinator for the Vikings, and Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator for the Steelers.
And then you also got Pete Carroll, former Seahawks head coach, Cliff Kingsbury, Commanders offensive coordinator, Mike Vrabel, and Ben Johnson. I think their best option's Ben Johnson as a Bears fan, but is that what they're going to go with?
If you had a top 3 coaches, you're in charge of hiring the Chicago Bears head coach right now. Don't think realistic. What's your top 3 head coaching that you think?
Mike Vrabel.
At 1?
No. Ben Johnson at 1.
In order.
Ben Johnson at 1, Mike Vrabel at 2. I don't like Pete Carroll. He's too old for me, I think. I like Brian Flores. He's a defensive-minded head coach. Or Cliff Kingsbury. I'd put him there. But I don't like any other guys like Arthur Smith that got fired for a reason. I don't like Mike McCarthy. Can't get he's a former Packers coach and can't get the Cowboys to win. He's on the older side too. What would you pick for your top 3?
I like Mike Vrabel. If I had to choose 1 through 3, give me Mike Vrabel at 1. No. Here, it's easier to work 3 to 1, so I'm going to work 3 to 1. I guess I'll put Ben Johnson in there. I'm not too thrilled about it. I don't know if he'll be a good head coach. He's a good coordinator, but I don't know if he can bring the culture that Chicago needs. I can't put him at 3. I'm putting Pete Carroll at 3. His age is hurting him, but he's definitely a culture builder. He's the youngest 73-year-old I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he definitely brings a culture. Give me Mike Vrabel at 2. He took Ryan Tannehill to an AFC Championship game. He's got my vote. Number 1, give me John Gruden.
Okay.
I want Gruden over any of these guys in the coaching market right now. I think Gruden's the best guy to have. What he did in Las Vegas, of course, getting kicked out for a good reason, his emails. But I think he's served outside the NFL long enough to where he is getting interest by NFL coaches, owners.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting in that point because you haven't seen anyone go out and say, hey, we want to interview John Gruden. He could be one of those surprise guys that reemerges.
There are some reports saying that the NFL teams are interested. They're interested in him. So we don't know who those NFL teams are. We know the lawsuit against the NFL has been settled, or they're settling out of court. Maybe the NFL says, hey, maybe give this guy a job so we can, that's our settlement, is he gets a job in the NFL as a head coach somewhere. So maybe that could be a thing. But I think John Gruden to the Bears just seems like a good fit because he needed a hard-nosed guy. He's an offensive-minded coach. Definitely could support Caleb Williams and give the Bears some structure.
Yeah.
Because, he's a no-nonsense guy. You need a no-nonsense guy in Chicago. They need it really bad. Putting someone like John Gruden in there, he got the best out of Derek Carr. And before he got kicked out, he resigned in the season. That team still made the playoffs. So it's not like there was a bad team. It was a good coach team.
Yeah.
To see what he could do with the Bears with all the talent, I would love to see him as the head coach. I'd love to see him over some guys like Ben Johnson, because the Ben Johnson has no head coaching experience. Who's to say he's gonna be a good head coach? We tried the offensive and defensive coordinator route in a row, and we tried we tried a old washed up head coach in John Fox.
Yeah.
We tried a Canadian football team coach in Mark Trestman. We fired Lovie Smith after an 8-8 year. He had a winning record with the Chicago Bears. We got Matt Nagy, offensive coordinator. We had Matt Eberflus, defensive coordinator. And then we're going to go back to another offensive coordinator who we don't know. He could be the next big guy.
Yeah. And don't forget, we tried out a passing game coordinator, too.
Yeah, I don't really count the interim head coaches. I don't really like counting those. So
yeah.
We did have a pass team coordinator be our head coach, too. So, as far as I'm concerned, stick a watermelon on the sideline and just say that's our head coach. Put a headset on him. Put a headset on a watermelon. And
yeah.
I think Chicago would be happy if that over any of these head coaches.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting job market going into the offseason, especially so many teams looking for head coaches. But I think what's a more interesting story and what's more relevant now is the NFL wildcard weekend coming up this weekend. Big games. I want to start off with the first one. Number 7 seeded in the NFC, Green Bay, doing everything they could have wrong.
Ooh.
Losing to the Bears, bear down, baby, and the Commanders winning against the Cowboys on a last-minute drive. They did everything they shouldn't have done, and now they're going to travel to Philly and beat the red-hot Philadelphia Eagles.
They're going to beat them?
No.
You're saying you're going to beat them?
They got to beat them, but they're not going to.
They got to beat them. Let's break it down a little bit, okay? It's going to be 36 degrees at kickoff, so it's going to be cold, but Green Bay's used to the cold, so that's not really a disadvantage for either team here. It's going to be loud in Lincoln Financial Field for the Eagles. The Eagles having a lot of talent, especially on that defensive side of the ball. I think they're well put together. This could be interesting. Will it come back to bite the Eagles in the butt for benching someone like a Saquon Barkley and a Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts, of course, coming off the concussion as well. He's questionable for the game. Both quarterbacks on each side of the ball are questionable for the game. Jordan Love getting that hand injury late in early. Actually, it was midway through the game, the Chicago Bears game, hurting his throwing hand. We talk about Week 18. Some of these teams don't start their guys because of something like that. Both of these quarterbacks questionable. We have Christian Watson, who's guaranteed to be out after last week's injury. Devontae Smith is questionable. A.J. Brown is both questionable, assuming these guys will play, though. It's a playoff game. They're not going to sit out. But, Andrew, who do you believe is going to win this game and give me a score prediction.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be the Eagles by at least a touchdown and a field goal, so 2 scores. I think it's going to be 24-10. No, 24-14. And I think the Eagles are going to win this. I think the Packers are going to struggle because of Jordan Love. Jordan Love's going to be banged up. They're not going to have Christian Watson. They're going to throw some bad turnovers. I think the Eagles are going to win this one. Saquon's going to have a great game.
I kind of agree with you. I think the Eagles are going to win this game. I'm going to say 24-13. I like how Saquon Barkley's running the ball. I think Saquon Barkley gets over 100 yards rushing in this game, and I think it's where a win in Philadelphia. To be honest, I'm not going to pick Green Bay in the playoffs, so it would be very sweet to see Green Bay lose 2 weeks in a row. Do you want to kick off another game?
Yeah, going to the very first game of the slate. I kind of jumped courses there, but we got Chargers and Texans. This game is on CBS at 3:30 on Saturday. This one should be interesting. Both these teams kind of had ups and downs throughout the season. Jim Harbaugh leading his team to the playoffs in his very first season as a head coach. Texans also put together a solid season. CJ Stroud didn't have his best season. But I'll let you pick this one first.
Oh, I was going to let you pick it first, but you pulled the old Uno reverse card on me. We all know I'm pretty much a Chargers lover this season. I love Jim Harbaugh and what he's done with this Chargers team that's not as talented, but definitely outworking the team and more structured than it was last year. With that being said, this game is in Houston, and Houston's not going to give up. They're not going to give up. They're going to fight their way into this game, but it's going to be not going to be enough. Give me the Chargers in this one.
Back and forth.
Herbert's playing like prime Brady and Manning. He's playing like those two players in their prime right now. He's playing so good. And the Chargers are rolling right now. It's hard for me to pick the Houston Texans when they're not rolling very hot right now. They're not doing very good. I don't know.
I thought about this before the podcast. Give me the Chargers. I think they're well put together. Obviously, they're not the most talented, like we were saying, but they're well coached. And as if you're a well coached team and you could win games and you're on a hot streak, you're gonna win playoff games. Next game, that's very crucial AFC matchup, conference division matchup. We got another Saturday night game. This game's on Prime Video. Seahawks at Steelers at Baltimore. Seahawks missed the playoffs. Steelers at Baltimore. This one's huge. Ravens are favored 72-27 in this one. That's big. And that's where I'll pick first. I'll make it easy on you. I'll go with the Ravens here. I don't think that the Steelers are rolling. George Pickens complaining so soft about everything. Oh, fans did this, fans did that. Oh, he's complaining about everything. You're in the playoffs. Suck it up and play football. It's not that hard. Russell Wilson hasn't been too hot lately, and I think the Ravens are on the right path.
Steelers are 1-5 in their last 5 games on a 4-game losing streak heading into the playoffs. Well, the Baltimore Ravens, their last 5 games, they are 5-1, with one of those wins going against Pittsburgh, 34-17 in that matchup, in which Lamar Jackson threw for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns in that one, and Derrick Henry rushed for 24 carries, 162 yards. With that being said, it is very hard to pick the Steelers in this one. To me, that they don't have enough at quarterback, and you're going to need to have enough at quarterback to go against someone like Lamar Jackson. I think Baltimore is peaking at the right time, and I think the Steelers are heading backwards, and that's why they ended up losing the division to the Baltimore Ravens. And I think Baltimore is going to win this game. I don't think it's much of a question.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. It's going to be very interesting Saturday slate, but switching to the Sunday slate, this game kicking off at noon. The Broncos putting up a very, very, very strong performance this past weekend against the Chiefs with a 38-0 victory, obviously against backups. But the Broncos really stringing things together towards the end of the season. You got Josh Allen out for the Bills last week. They lost to the Patriots. But this game should be pretty secured up, I think, by the Bills because they've been on a roll recently. Obviously, Josh Allen set out, so he'll be ready to go. Bo Nix has been leading the Broncos to a surprising season. Sean Payton, a great coach there too. But if I had to pick this game, I'd say the Bills. I don't see the Broncos putting up a contest. The game might be closer than people think, but I think it's going to be the Bills.
Sean Payton in the locker room after the game said they're a young team and young teams are dangerous. They are dangerous, telling his guys that this is it. This is the playoffs. Come to play. A young, dangerous team that's used to the cold. Buffalo, who has had some playoff woes in the recent years. We have a coach, Sean Payton, won a Super Bowl before. He's a very good coach with a very young team that is very talented who just beat the number one team in the AFC in the NFL last week, even though they didn't have a starters. Still, it is very, very impressive to win a game 38-0, and they looked really, really good in that one. Bo Nix, 26-29 for 321 and 4 TDs. That cannot go unnoticed. They absolutely dominated it in this game, offensively and defensively. I think the defense of the Denver Broncos is going to give Josh Allen some hardships in the pocket. He's going to need to run around, which I think Josh Allen will make those plays that Josh Allen makes at least 2 to 3 big-time runs and big-time throws a game. This game will be close. And we forgot to pick scores for all the rest of the games. So we'll go back and pick scores. Ugh. Give me the Denver Broncos in an upset.
Okay.
Against the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to guess. Let me do a little, because I have some math here that I need to.
Yeah, I'll
think
I'll
a couple to. Okay.
I'll stall for you. If I were to say I would like, well, obviously I'm picking the Bills, but I would like the Broncos for an upset over the Steelers if I had to pick a team to upset.
I'm saying 28-24. No, 28-20 Denver.
Okay,
28-20.
I think it's going to be 32-28 Buffalo. It's going to be a high-scoring game, I think.
All right, yeah. Let's go back to some of the other ones. Pittsburgh, Baltimore score predictions in that one.
This one's gonna be. I feel like it's gonna be a blow up by the Ravens. I would say 28-14.
I'm going to go 41-28.
Okay.
41-28 Baltimore in that one, and then we'll have the Chargers, Houston.
I feel like this game for some reason is going to be a low-scoring game. Give me 14-7 Chargers.
Give me 17-14 Chargers.
Okay. Both fair scores. Moving on to another game. This game is two teams that really came out of nowhere this year.
Oh, did we pick Green? We did pick Green Bay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Two teams coming out of nowhere. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders taking on Baker Mayfield and the Red Hot Buccaneers after they're coming off their playoff clinching victory over the Saints, as the Panthers beat the Falcons and knocked them out of the playoffs. But yeah, very, very crucial game for Jaden Daniels as a rookie. This Commanders team has seen spots throughout the season, and so is this Bucs team. But I'll turn it to you. Who do you think is going to win this one?
I think Washington's going to end up winning this one. I do not trust the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, but with how well Baker Mayfield is playing, and of course you got Mike Evans on the field, it's going to be a close one. I think Washington ends up winning this one. I think, what's the score prediction? I think it's going to be like something around 24-17, something like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
In a playoff game. What do you think?
I think that I'm going to pick the Bucs. I think that Baker and Mike Evans are rolling right now just after he put up his I think 10th consecutive 1,000-yard season, something crazy like that. Future Hall of Famer, obviously, but Baker's cooking, Bucky Irving's cooking, Mike Evans is cooking.
Don't let Russ cook.
Yeah, don't let Russ cook. But Baker's showed out these past couple of years, and I think he's going to want it out for blood in the playoffs because he obviously fell short in the playoffs last year. Jaden Daniels is going to have the rookie playoff jitters, I think, and the Bucks are going to win this one. I'm going to do the complete opposite score of you. Bucks are going to win this one 24-17.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah.
The last one, Minnesota at the 14, and 3 Minnesota Vikings at the Los Angeles Rams, who finished the season at 10-7. Game is in LA, of course. Who do you have?
This is why I love the NFL. It's crazy to think a 14-3 team is not hosting a playoff game, let alone getting a first-round bye. The Rams are red hot. Obviously, they rested all their starters this past weekend. Matthew Stafford sat out, Cooper Kupp sat out, so they're going to be fresh and ready to go. The Vikings are coming off a loss to the Lions, but if I had to pick one in this, I think I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to take the Rams. I feel like this game is more evenly sided than many people may think, so I think it's going to be like a 21-24 victory. It's going to be very close, I think. But I'm going to have the Rams winning this one. I feel like the Rams in the playoffs are really good. McVay has more experience in the playoffs than Kevin O'Connell. And I think that'll lead them to a victory in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to pick against Matthew Stafford in the playoffs. It just feels like he wins some games in the playoffs. At least with the LA Rams, he did. But everyone's jumping off this Minnesota train after their loss last week, and I think that was a very hard loss last week they had against the Detroit Lions. But I don't think it's the end of the world. I think that defense is playing very good. So I think it's going to be a closer game. If I had to pick right now, remember, they played each other. Earlier on in the season. It ended up being the Rams 30, Minnesota 20 after the Sam Darnold
the face mask.
Face mask not called. The game could have been a lot different. Of course, this is a Thursday night football game, so there's little preparation goes into Thursday night games.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard, but I'm going to pick the Vikings. I just think they're more talented, and I think they're going on the road, and I don't think it's that hard of an atmosphere to go into and win in a dome in LA Rams Stadium. So I'm going to pick Minnesota winning it 23-20.
Okay.
23-20.
Yeah. And that covers all of our wild card weekend. Obviously, this last game we just covered is a Monday night game, so these teams will have the most time to prepare. Teams the first round bye: Lions with a 15-2 record, and the Chiefs also with the 15-2 record. It'll be interesting to see who they will play and who will move on in the next round of the playoffs. But I think this has been a pretty solid episode of the Anytime Sports Podcast Show. This one took an arm and a leg to get together.
It did.
Colin
It
had a long adventure to get back. We had a lot of technical difficulties. Hopefully, we pieced one together.
Too many.
Hopefully, we pieced a good. Hopefully, we pieced a good podcast together for you guys next week. We should be back to normal. I'll be back at my normal setup. And we should have everything back synced up to normal. And everyone enjoy a good weekend of wild card football. We'll see a lot of teams eliminated, a lot of good teams moving on. This is where we find out what teams are really made of and what teams are really made of in the playoffs. It should be an interesting weekend of football. Hopefully everyone won their fantasy championships. I know I didn't win I didn't win any of my 5 leagues.
Jeez. I won 2 out of my 4 leagues this year. So,
oh my gosh.
I won 50% this year.
That's good.
Of course, not in the leagues that I really care about, but I did win.
Yeah.
I did win 2 championships this year.
That's all right. Fantasy football is unpredictable, and so is NFL football. And hopefully everyone has a fun weekend of watching football, and we'll see you guys next week.
Was down, but now I'm up. I was down, but now I'm up.